Hello, my name is Willow Allen, and today we are talking with Celeste Headlee. Celeste is an American journalist, radio host, author, public speaker, and more. In 2015, she presented her TEDx talk, 10 Ways to Have Better Conversations. She then released her book, We Need to Talk, How to Have Conversations That Matter. And she's also written the books Do Nothing and Speaking of Race, Why Everybody Needs to Talk About Racism and How to Do It. As one of Bridgewater College's esteemed endowed lecturers, Celeste will discuss 10 ways to have better conversations after the 2024 election later this week. Now we're going to take this opportunity to learn a little bit more about Celeste's career, her books, and the importance of meaningful conversations. Again, Celeste, thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak with you. And again, how are you doing today?
My pleasure, and I'm fine.
Okay, perfect. So I obviously tried to research you a good amount. I looked at your biographies, your website, read or listened to a few podcasts that you have been on, and I was really interested in kind of the beginning of your career. So starting from the beginning, I saw that you have both your bachelor's and master's degrees in vocal performance, and you've been a very successful performer. Was that your original career plan? How did that shift?
I was trained as an opera singer, obviously, and anybody who is trained in music performance of any kind, you you kind of have to accept that you're going to need a J job. That I've been have been on my career trajectory. My plan was always to continue performing while I kept a day job that provided me a salary and, you know, health insurance. You
Hmm.
just can't rely on performing. It's not steady enough to give you a steady income to make sure you're making your rent payments, and it often doesn't supply um, health insurance or other benefits. So, yeah.
That makes sense. I feel like a lot of creatives in that line of work definitely have the same idea with that and have to have day jobs, as you said. Your first job in radio that I saw was as a classical music host.
Mm-hmm.
So how and why did you transition from that classical music host position to like more traditional radio journalism?
So I have a principle in my life that I don't ever turn down free training. I don't care what it is. If someone's offering to train you for free, I say yes. And while I was a classical music host, Arizona Public Radio needed someone to do some of their cultural interviews, and they didn't have anybody who had the necessary experience. So there was an NPR producer stationed at the radio station there, and she offered to train me to do interviews, and I said yeah. And that just kind of grew from there. The very first interview I ever did was with R. Carlos Nakai, who's a legendary Navajo flute player.
Oh,
And he had become that year the very first indigenous musician to be nominated for 2 Grammys in the same year. Um, so it was a lot of pressure the first year, the very, very first interview. But it just turned out to be something that I was good at, and I just kept going with it, and it eventually became my full-time job.
that's so exciting. What an honor for your first one.
I know, and very nerve-wracking.
I bet. Do you think that having that like such a renowned person for your first interview kind of set the stage for you?
I mean, I have no idea. I don't have any copy of that interview anymore. I'm sure it was terrible. My second interview was with Judy Collins. Um, so I just feel like I got thrown into the deep end, and that can go well, it can go badly. I mean, I think the main thing that allowed me to learn from it is that I've never been in the business of giving less than I have.
Hmm.
Whatever it is that I'm doing, e- even if my skills aren't ready, I'm going to do the best I can. So I threw everything into those interviews. I spent countless hours learning everything there was to know about them, and that has sort of been my style ever since. Um, and it has worked out, later on. I mean, just like really, really doing the research. I later on in my years later, I was interviewing Toni Morrison when her book Beloved, she had turned it into an opera called Margaret Garner. And I was covering it for NPR. And I had no idea at the time, but I guess she is really was very well known in broadcasting as a very, very difficult interview.
Oh.
One of those people that stands up and leaves, or sometimes doesn't want to speak, or, I guess she was notorious. I had no idea, because I had a fantastic interview with her. I mean, she talked to me for an hour. She didn't want to leave when it was time to go. And the engineer's like, we need to use the studio. But and when everybody kept asking me how I got Toni Morrison to talk, and I was like, I read her books. It's not, it's not rocket science here. I read the books,
Hmm.
and I asked her about what she does. So I think that in terms of like whether that very first high pressure interview set me up, I mean, I guess it did, because I was so scared by it that it just kept my discipline high, and I've never dropped it.
Right. And I mean, that's clearly been allowed you to be so successful. And I think that's a great way to go about having a career and I mean living life, just putting your all into everything.
Yeah, and showing people the respect they deserve, right? Read their work. Why are you wasting people's time if you haven't bothered to learn anything about them?
Right.
So yeah, that was always respect for the craft, respect for the audience, and respect for your guest.
Of course. That makes a lot of sense. And I mean, you talk a lot about respect in your book and in all of your talks when talking about how to have meaningful conversations. So it makes sense for that to transcend into really every aspect of life and work and what you do.
Yeah, and we don't have a lot of it these days, right? I
Hmm.
mean, you've been on social media.
Yeah.
um Respect is pretty rare. I don't know, there's this weird idea that in order to respect someone as a human being, you have to agree with them on everything.
Hmm.
It's gotten very convoluted, this idea of respect, as though respect is some rare gift you only give to a chosen few. It's not. It's not. Respect is what you give to other humans. And creatures, living
Right.
beings. Yeah.
Um, Going off of that, I know that you're going to obviously talk about it in the endowed lecture, but I mean, the election just happened. There's so much conversation about it on and offline, and I feel like, I mean, at Bridgewater now, I see so many things about it online, but I go to classes and nobody wants to talk about it. Do you think that social media has negatively impacted our ability to talk about it in person or talk about it at all?
That's a complicated question. Social media has definitely had a deleterious effect on people's conversation, on civic conversations.
Hmm.
It's not the only thing ruining it. Um, there are many other things happening here, but you know, a lot of times when I'm talking about conversation, especially in workplaces, one of the first questions that leadership asks me is, how do I talk to younger generations, for example? um, and I tell them, look, Gen Z and Alpha Gen have exactly the same skills in conversation that any other generation does. They're equally skilled at conversations, at listening, which is hard.
Hmm.
All that's all the same, except Gen Z is the generation that is the most likely to believe that texting back and forth is the same as conversation. And it's very much not.
Right.
Not neurologically, not physiologically, not psychologically. And not coincidentally, Gen Z is also the loneliest generation on record. So when you talk about how social media has impacted that, social media is just part of this idea that we can carry out human conversations through some form of computer, and you can't.
Hmm.
Evolution doesn't work that fast. Our brains and our bodies have not evolved to recognize digitally mediated conversation as conversation. And so we are more likely to dehumanize people when it's going through a computer, either your smartphone or a computer or whatever. We're more likely to be cruel. We're less compassionate. We're less patient. We're less collaborative. We are worse versions of ourselves when there's a computer in between us. So social media is part of that landscape. It's not the big bad guy, but I'm not sure that there is a big bad wolf here. It's just the environment in which we live, in which we devalue human interaction and somehow believe that when it happens over some form of electronics, it's better. It's
Right.
not.
And I mean, it's really easy to see that if you're in a fight with somebody you care about and you're texting about it, obviously people
Yeah.
are going to take what you're saying the wrong way. They're going to read it a completely different way. And I found it really interesting. You talked about it in, I want to say it was the Jordan Harbinger show. You did a podcast with
Yeah.
him. And you talked about how a lot of times we have more effective conversations with strangers than with close friends or family because we assume we know what they're going to say. I feel like
Yeah.
that kind of ties in with online because we assume we know the tone, what they meant by it, anything like that.
Yeah, and don't forget, yes, it is correct that people think their friends and family know them very well, but research shows that your friends and family, your closest um, friends and family, can are no more accurate at detecting sarcasm in your emails, for example, than a complete stranger off the
Right.
street. Um, but also, don't forget that pretty much everyone is affected by the negativity bias, and
Hmm.
that is evolutionarily um, designed, right? Homo sapiens is a super fragile species. We are slow. We do not have a lot of defensive mechanisms. We don't have talons or a spiked tail or venom. Um, we are fragile. And so it has always been safer for our species. If you're standing in the forest and you hear heavy steps coming towards you, it's always safer to assume it's a threat. And we carry this less evolved, fearful um, remnant of our species in our brains. And
Hmm.
it leads us to not give people the benefit of the doubt, meaning that when someone says something, we're always going to interpret it in the most negative way possible, almost every time. And this happens not just when you're in a fight. It sometimes is what causes the fight. It's the reason why we are more likely to escalate conflict in email than we are over the phone, because we assume they know what we're saying. They don't. They misinterpret us. They often misinterpret us in the worst possible light that they can. And we respond in kind. So, we're really not doing ourselves any favors through any of this. And certainly on social media, you see how quickly things can absolutely devolve into Lord of the Flies.
Definitely. How do you think we can kind of unlearn and then relearn a more beneficial way of thinking around that?
So the main thing is we have to slow down.
Hmm.
I mean, most people at least know, if they haven't read the book Thinking Fast and Slow, that you at least have heard of Daniel Kahneman's um, System One versus System Two thinking. But just a quick refresher: System One,
Yes, thank you for everybody else
yeah,
listening.
is neuroscientists estimate it's 98% of our thought. 98% of our thoughts are unconscious,
Hmm.
meaning we have no control over them. And most of that is system one. Those is, you can't possibly think through every step involved in walking across the room and opening a door. You would be dysfunctional if you had to consciously think through all of that. So your brain finds shortcuts. It does that subconsciously, and allows us to function in the world. The thing is, system one thinking is designed to do just what I talked about: help you walk, help you put on your pants, help you move the fork from the plate to your mouth without thinking about it. We try to use system one thinking for everything, meaning that even the things that require consideration and analysis and careful thought and time for empathy to weigh in, we're trying to respond to someone's uh, tweet or Facebook post or TikTok. We immediately open up that click that create button and start responding. That's what system two thinking is for. You have to let the adult in the brain, that would be the prefrontal cortex and your temporal parietal junction and all those other things, you have to give them time. And so when you talk about changing thinking, I don't, it's less about changing thinking than it is about slowing down.
Hmm. That's so interesting. And yeah, I feel like taking a step back, being aware of what you're thinking, and then moving on. Yeah, I think slowing down is a perfect descriptor of that. That makes complete sense. I feel like we're taught, and you talk about this as well, um, that we're taught, what did you say? When giving advice around listening and having conversations, people usually give advice on how to pretend to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I feel like you're taught, you kind of just go on autopilot with things. You smile and you maintain eye contact and you nod and you agree or you disagree. But it's all on autopilot. You're not really taking that step back, slowing down and letting, as you put it, that second part really delve into it.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is that the way that we were taught, and we all were taught this. I used to think that that was what good listening was, right?
Mhm.
Like the experts in the field told us we were supposed to nod and say uh-huh and mirror their body language and all of those things. But we since we've had access to fMRIs, functional magnetic resonance imaging machines, it has totally exploded our ideas of how to carry on a good conversation. And I say that because we can now watch the brain working while it's in conversation. So we know that if what you're trying to do is pretend to listen, meaning you're acting as though you're listening. That's what all those things are. When you're saying uh-huh and nodding your head, that's pretending to listen. And while you're doing that, you're not capable of listening. You have to choose one or the other. But the other thing that we know is that if you do actually listen, if your focus is on um, uh, paying attention to what they're saying, how they're saying, and making your goal understanding, then you will do all of those things naturally. You will naturally nod your head and say uh-huh and mirror their body language and take turns between talking and listening. That's what Homo sapiens does when it's in conversation.
Right.
So all you have to do is actually learn how to listen, which again, I'm not downplaying, it's not easy, but the rest of it will take care of itself. And I'll say one more thing, which is that there was a great study that was published just a couple years ago, and I maybe reference it and do nothing, but in which the scientists um, observed and analyzed conversations between every possible combination of people who'd known each other for at least a year, people who'd lived together, people who'd just met, and they came away with one takeaway from every single form of those conversations. And it was this: people like you more than you think. And people enjoy your conversation more than you realize. We get so caught up in our inner monologues. We get so caught up in those things like, oh, am I nodding? Am I saying, wait, was what I just said stupid? They didn't laugh at my joke. Oh my God, I feel like an idiot. We get so wrapped up in our own self-consciousness, we're missing all of these signs from the other person that they're just enjoying the conversation. So, I mean, as people start to maybe overanalyze all of this, I would just say, you know how to do this. It is built into your DNA. Um, Good conversation is Homo sapiens' biological superpower, and people like you more than you think they do. Relax.
I think that's a beautiful takeaway. I think honestly, everybody would love to know that people like them more than they think they do. And that
I
makes so much sense. I mean, what makes us different than every other species in the world? We're able to, as some people put it, communicate more efficiently, more effectively.
Yeah, at the high level, it's such a level of sophistication that, as far as we know, there is no other species that can do that. It's the reason our species has survived. Quite frankly, we shouldn't have been, logically speaking. I mean, Neanderthal was a super impressive species. They were more resilient than we are, faster, stronger. They had bigger brains than we do. They practiced a rudimentary form of dentistry. I mean, logically speaking, one might think Neanderthal would survive, not Homo sapiens, not weak Homo sapiens that becomes uncomfortable if the temperature changes 10 or 15 degrees.
Mhm.
But the fact of the matter is our conversation, our cooperation skills, our collaborative skills are so sophisticated that we are capable of incredible things when we work as a group, when we think as a group. We don't do so well on our own, but when we collaborate together, when we are engaged in group thinking and hive mind thinking, we are super impressive. And that is how we have always survived. It's because you're never dealing with one human, you're always dealing with more. They're not going to let some tiger go to your village and drag out another person night after night. And that's what has always been our superpower.
Honestly, listening to you even talk about the Neanderthal dentistry, I think I need to look more into that. That sounds very interesting.
It's fascinating, right?
Yes, definitely. Um, what a superpower. And I think, I mean, sadly, over the course of the last 20 years, from my understanding of it, we're starting to lose that superpower. And like you said, Gen Z is what they say is the loneliest generation. I think being online really separates us and makes it way easier to be divided. What do you think about that? How can we go back to community and kind of garner support for one another?
Look, I don't want to sound like an old person yelling at people to get off my lawn, but you just have to get off your smartphone and
Right.
your computer. Yeah, I mean, it really is that simple. And I know people are tired of hearing that, but look, the science is pretty much in concert on this. We've had plenty of time to study this. We know the effect. We don't know all the effects, but we do know that you got to get off your phone. And you know what? Most people are addicted to their phones. In fact,
Hmm.
some studies show that the most addicted generation is actually the baby boomers. So this is a universal experience we're having right now. And if all that you can do is say, okay, I'm going to set aside 20 minutes a day, that's where I'm going to start. This is what I can do. For 20 minutes each day, I'm going to put my phone in another room and silence it and not touch it. And start there. If that's all you've got, start there. If all you've got is to walk around a couple blocks and leave your phone at home, then do it. But that is the answer. We have to get away from our devices. The tech in itself is not the villain. I mean, it's just a tool.
Hmm.
And in Homo sapiens is known for many things, one of which is using tools. Tools are so natural to us that when you pick up a hammer, your brain treats that hammer like an extension of your arm. That's how natural tools are. The difference is when you're finished hammering in that nail, you put the hammer down. We just are not, our brains aren't ready to handle keeping that tool in your hand all the time. So, that's the simple answer. Honestly, I don't care if you're tired of hearing it. That's the answer. Put your phone down.
No, and you're completely right. I remember thinking, because I mean, as part of Gen Z, I feel like we grew up and watched the shift, or not even watched it, we're completely in the shift of less, not frequent, not as popular online activity to it's a part of our daily life. We're on it all the time. And when I was younger, I remember people would, obviously tell us to get off the phone or get off the computer or whatever. And it's annoying and it's like, no, I want to be on here. But I don't know. Recently, in like the past like 5 years, I've really began to understand like the implications that we don't know exactly what happens because of this, and also just how divisive it allows people to be, how lonely it allows people to be, and you think you're getting these connections and it's not the same, and it's better to be off the phones.
Yeah. And when we talk about loneliness, loneliness is deadly for our species. Chronic loneliness is as bad for you as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's as bad for you as morbid obesity in terms of shortening your life. Loneliness will kill you. And I'm not being I'm not being apocalyptic about this. That's not what our species does. That's like adopting an animal and then doing exactly the thing that's not good for that animal, right? Like suddenly you adopt a gerbil and you put them in an aquarium. What are you doing? And that's basically what we're doing to ourselves.
Mhm.
Like I get it. We think that being offline means we're going to miss out on stuff, but the stuff you're missing out on is crap.
Yeah,
Like you're not missing out on
100%.
anything at all. So get off of your computers. And again, I get it. It's difficult, but it's actually not as difficult as people think. It really isn't. These sort of fears we have about what's going to happen if we don't check our email. Let me just say something. There's no such thing as an urgent email. And I'm going to say this again. There's no such thing as an urgent email. That's not a thing. That's not a real thing. If something's truly urgent, people call you.
Hmm.
They don't send an email. They may say it's urgent, but it's not, or they wouldn't have emailed you. So it's okay to check your email once an hour, once every other hour. That's 100% okay. We've only had email for a short period of time. The world worked, things kept moving before people were able to reach us constantly.
Hmm.
So, a lot of these fears that we have of going a day without your phone, relax. That's in your head. It's entirely in your head.
I think that's a great message to spread. I mean, I like to think that people in my generation are starting to see like the negative impacts and starting to kind of take time away from the phones, but I feel like, yeah, it is scary. You feel like, what are you gonna miss out on? What are you not seeing all the time? But that's a big thing to kind of accept. You don't want to see everything all the time. That's actually not beneficial for you.
No, and you're missing stuff while you're looking at that crap.
Right.
You're watching somebody's reaction video or watching them open up their brand new whatever it is. And you just missed, I live across from Rock Creek Park. It's across the street from me. I mean, stuff is happening there every day. We had, we have a beaver that lives there and he moved his den up
Oh my
the
goodness.
creek. Yeah. And he was up there on the path and you know, his little tush. Beavers have big tushes. They've got badonkadonks. His little tush is like waddling down as he gets back to the water because my dog was trying to harass him. Like you miss the ducklings that get that get born each season. You miss the deer as they go. I mean, these are things you're missing while you're sitting there staring at your freaking phone. And whatever your version of that is, you're missing it in
Right.
the world. You're missing the joys and the sorrows of the people you care about. You're missing the beauty that humans create. I mean, yes, if you stay on social media, you could absolutely believe that our species is awful, and we can be awful. But once you get off your phone, you are much more likely to see the beauty that our species is capable of. And it will help, it will renew you, it will relax you, it will make you feel better.
And you know what? I really need to take that advice because I have been doom scrolling on TikTok for the past 2 days, and it
Yep.
has been killing me emotionally.
Yep, I'm sure. Yep. You got to get off. You know, people used to read poetry while they sat on their porches. People used to sit in front of a radio and listen to a whole radio drama, right? Like, if you think about the things that we sort of sneer at that our grandparents and great grandparents did. But when I've actually engaged in them, and these are some of the things that I did as I was researching and experimenting on myself to write the book Do Nothing, I realized those things are actually pretty fun. They're actually really fun. I mean, I probably shouldn't have sneered. And these are the things that you actually have time for. That's the other thing when you set down your phone, is that you have more time than you think.
hmm What are some of those things that you tried to do? I need some good ideas.
So I picked up hobbies. Like I picked up board games. I started doing puzzles.
Oh yeah.
Like I bought a puzzle table and I just have it in my living room with one puzzle or another out there all the time. When I came back from trips, I would invite my friends over to come look at my pictures, because our grandparents and great grandparents used to do that. They'd have like these slideshows of their vacation pics. So I started doing that. I would just invite people over for dinner or a drink or whatever, and I'd be like, "Okay, I'm going to show you my pictures now." It was super fun. And I did other things too, like, what did I do? I started collecting. My son had bought me a little miniatures kit for Christmas like a couple years before, and I was like, I'm gonna, my grandparents had hobbies, like, try this. And I've become obsessed with miniatures. Like, I'm a miniaturist now. These things you have time for, that you think you don't, but you actually do.
That's amazing. I've taken up crocheting. For a while I was collaging. Um
Nice.
yeah. I'll look into miniaturing though. That
I
sounds
mean, they collected stamps and, coins and polished rocks and made macrame plant hangers.
I could
I
get
mean,
into that. Yeah.
yeah, totally fun.
Okay, so for everybody listening, get into hobbies.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense.
Bowling clubs. Bring back the backyard barbecue if you're doing it in a sustainable
Yes.
way.
Yes. We need oh, what's that little game? Oh, it's like
Um,
tennis, but it
oh,
has a
badminton
badminton. Bring back
or
badminton.
bocce.
Yes.
Yeah, cornholing if you're in the South.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Cornhole is a staple at Bridgewater at all the football games, at all the
there you go.
teams. We're very into cornhole here. Um, let's see. Yes, bring back hobbies. I think that's a
Yes.
really great, really
Hobbies and clubs. Bring them back.
Um, in that same vein, obviously we were talking about empathy, taking a step back to listen. Is there anything that you wish you knew about kind of navigating difficult or really any type of conversations when you were a young adult?
I mean, I didn't know anything really. As the thing for me, and I talk about this in Speaking of Race, is that I'm a what people call racially nondescript. I'm Black and Jewish, but people don't know what my background is, and I'm one of those people that is constantly asked, "What are you?"
hmm
So I have been in awkward and difficult conversations my whole life, going back to elementary school. So I maybe got more practice and learned more about it at a younger age than most people do. But I will say that it is a practice. You do have to learn about it. You don't naturally come to become an expert in difficult conversations because people get defensive. And
Hmm.
as soon as somebody becomes defensive, the conversation's over. So you essentially have to learn how to talk about difficult things without making either yourself or the other person defensive. And that's not easy. It's easier than we think it is, but it's not easy. And so, I mean, I guess I was going to say, what did I wish I knew? I wish I knew that I needed to shut up more. Um, but, but yeah, other than just stop talking, um, I think most of it was, it's always going to be, it was always trial and error for me.
Right, that makes sense. Practice, practice, practice. Not every
Yep.
conversation is going to go perfect.
Yeah, but if it doesn't go perfect, it's not necessarily the other person's fault.
Right. Right.
It might have been yours.
Yeah. And I know another thing you said specifically when talking about politics, but I mean, again, it can be about any type of conversation, was go into things not trying to change people's minds. And I
Yes.
think that's another thing that takes a lot of practice.
Yeah. Although, here's the thing about that. You know, what's your goal in these? This is what I'm always asking people. You go into this conversation with someone who disagrees with you, or someone who just uttered a microaggression or said something offensive, or whatever it may be. Um, what's your goal? Like, what are you trying to do? You've made a choice to engage in that conversation. Why? Because if your goal is to change their minds, might as well not. We have zero evidence that you're going to be able to do that. So if that's your goal going in, it's no wonder to me that people find it frustrating and enraging and stop doing it,
Hmm.
because you're trying to do something you can't do. So shift your goal. Change the goal. It's not change someone's mind anymore. It's understand why they believe the way they do. And that's incredibly valuable. Again and again, if you look at the people, extremists who've been talked out of their extremism, I'm talking about former members of the KKK or white supremacist groups, or any type of hate group,
Hmm.
who has been in some way convinced to leave that behind. There is one common thread through all of that, and that is that they all say that at some point they felt heard. They felt as though the other person did understand what they were saying and why they believed as they did. They didn't agree with them, obviously, but they heard them. And that sense, that feeling that we can give one another by the power of being heard, is not to be underestimated. It's rare. We don't hear people often, but it has a unique power in the human system, in our brains and our physiology and our psychology. And every part of us is affected by that feeling that someone hears us. And so if you make that your goal, it has nothing to do with endorsing their opinion, agreeing with them. You listening to them is giving them nothing. You're not giving them money. You're not giving them
Hmm.
more power. They will walk away with no more than they had when they approached you. But you can walk away with something. You can walk away with a better understanding of why they think the way they do. And that will help. And what's more, the only thing that has been shown to change minds over time and iteratively is that empathic bond that's created when one person speaks and another person hears them. If you can establish an empathic bond with someone, even if they disagree with you on just about everything, you finally have the chance that they may change their mind in the future.
Wow, just wow. I mean, yeah, that's something I'm still learning to change, shift what I want out of conversations with people that I don't agree with. And I mean, yeah, the magic within it, the possibilities that you can have once you shift what you want from conversations.
Yeah.
I'm very inspired. I will, like, I'm even now, I'm trying to like take your advice and not just go on autopilot with conversations. Like, as I've been researching you this past couple of weeks, I've been really trying to like put that, into action. And yeah, it takes so much practice, but it's it's really inspiring how you speak of it.
Thank you. And good on you. Keep going.
I'll try. It'll take me a while, but I got time. But yeah, I really do think that's so important. I mean, especially right now, because it's so easy to just accept the division and be like, I don't want to talk to anybody who thinks one certain way. But that's not going to get us anywhere. That's not going to help us in the long run.
And it's hurting you. I mean, this is
Mhm.
one of the things I'm going to talk about is that um, not having to contend with dissenting opinions actually can lead to cognitive decline in terms of shrinkage in your brain. It's not good for you. So, you really shouldn't be surrounding yourself with only people who think like you.
Right. And that makes perfect sense. I mean, it really does. It's important to have multiple perspectives in every aspect. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I'm never talking about continuing to talk to somebody who's abusing you
Mhm.
or harassing you, but that's very rare. If you read through social media, you'd think it's extremely common, but it's not. It is very rare that someone is in a conversation with someone who is actively abusing them or harassing them. So most of your conversations, well over 95% of them, are going to be with regular people who may have come up with different solutions. They may have different ideas about how to make things better, but they believe they are trying to make things better.
right.
That's what they believe.
And I think that's a really important thing to, yeah, as you said, to remember just that sentiment that they're doing what they think is right based on how the life they've lived. This is just the same way that you're doing what you think is right.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Let's see. Going back to you, switching the topic a little bit, I did see, and this is a little bit of, I'm asking for myself because I'm interested, but I'm sure other people will be interested too. I saw that you're also, in addition to everything else that you've done, you're also the president and CEO of Headway DEI, a nonprofit. I gotta ask, what made you pursue nonprofit work on top of everything else that you've done?
Yeah, I definitely didn't need more. In another sense, I've been working for public media and opera companies my whole life, so I've never been in the for-profit business.
Right.
um, no, after George Floyd's murder, a lot of journalists, public media journalists specifically, were really traumatized. We were traumatized not only by what happened, but wondering about our role in the current state of the country, but
Mhm.
also in the strictures that were placed upon us in terms of how to cover an event like that. And so public media, like so many other industries, is mostly white and mostly male. We're talking about the people who work for public media. And so I created a safe space. I purchased a Zoom account and created a safe place for us all just to come together and talk about what we were thinking. And that became a regular monthly thing. And then we started asking ourselves, well, look, if places like NPR has been investing tens of thousands, if not millions, into diversity and inclusion efforts for all these years, why hasn't it worked? And if it hasn't worked, which it hasn't, why are we still doing these same things? And so we set about we're a bunch of investigative journalists and editors. We started researching
Perfect.
and looking into, okay, so if traditional DEI and anti-bias training doesn't work, and again, it doesn't, what does work? Like, what is there evidence for? And it led us down a completely new path. Um, and it led me down a completely new path. And for years now, that has been a great deal of my focus, is researching what works.
Hmm.
And the truth of, and that's how Headway DEI came to be, is that we do trainings. We train people to be facilitators. We do workshop trainings and only focus on evidence-based, scientifically based strategies that actually work. So as far as I know, we're some of the only people doing this particular thing. There are lots. That's not to say there aren't great organizations. There's lots of them, but this specific thing that we do is fairly unique. And so, yeah, it has become a larger nonprofit.
That's amazing. That's so inspiring. And obviously, you're making quite a difference in everything you've done, but yeah, that's really important.
Yeah, I think so too.
Who would
I
have
think so
thought
too.
that science-based things would work or be
Who would have
useful?
thought that experimentation and testing would result in knowing what works and what doesn't? If only we had evidence-based politics,
Oh gosh, if
things would be
only.
better. Yeah.
Let's see. Well, this has been a really great conversation. Um, for kind of, I guess, to wrap everything up, um, we at Bridgewater are really excited to hear what you have to say at the Endowed Lecture. What are you most excited about to talk about at the Endowed Lecture?
I mean, I welcome the chance to talk to young people in particular because of what we talked about earlier, because of the chronic loneliness, which is really impacting the health um, of young people right
Hmm.
now. You know, when you're in your 20s, especially, there is so much going on, and a lot of it is terrible. It's the first time you've been looking forward to being an adult your whole life, and you have this idea of what it's going to be like to be an adult. And although you recognize that some things are terrible, but you think that it's mostly about being able to make your own decisions
Hmm.
and staying up as late as you want and eating what you want and doing what you want and being who you want. And then you get to be an adult and you realize, oh my God, most of this is awful.
Too many
Most
decisions to be
I know
made.
there's too much, there's too many consequences. The consequences seem to come really fast. I don't get to do what I want. And I don't get to spend my money the way I want. This is not what I thought.
Hmm.
And that's big.
Yeah, a
Like,
rude awakening.
yeah, that's big. And you're having to grapple with that at the same time that you're doing all that adult stuff. So I get why people are choosing to text instead of call. Like, I understand, but I need everybody to just listen for a second so I can make people realize that these decisions that you're making right now that you think are saving you time and helping you are really, really hurting you.
Right.
And you will eventually inherit the wind. That's what will happen. And I don't want that to happen to Gen Z. There are so many wonderful things about Gen Z and Alpha Gen. There's so much promise there. There's so much principle there. But I need you guys to take care of yourselves. Take care of yourselves as humans. Um, and that means cut it out with all the loneliness.
Right. Get off the phones.
Yeah,
TikTok will not
exactly.
save you.
It will not. It will not. Set a timer, turn off all your notifications, take off every social media app except for the ones that you need your phone for, like Instagram for pictures,
Hmm.
and set a timer on all of them.
I think that's great advice. I think, yeah, gotta take care of yourself like a human. Reach out to community, talk to your friends in person. I think that's great advice.
I look forward to it.
Yes, I look forward to it as well. I mean, this has just been amazing. You're so knowledgeable. Obviously, you're so well spoken. I've learned so much just talking to you. It's been nerve-wracking, but I mean, you're a pleasure to speak with.
Oh, that's really kind. Thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah, we're so excited to hear you speak. Thank you so much again. This has been amazing.
That's very kind. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.